Can everyone hear me?
We are
Yes.
live on YouTube. We're set to begin.
Commissioners, you're all set to start whenever you're ready.
Okay, let's get started then. Good morning, everybody. As chair of the advisory committee for review of executive director applications, I now call this meeting to order. Today, we are live streaming this Zoom. We're live streaming over Zoom, and it is being live streamed to Facebook and YouTube. To anyone in the public who is watching and would prefer to watch via a different platform than they are currently using, please visit our social media at Redistricting MI to find the link for viewing on YouTube. Our live stream today includes closed captioning. We have ASL interpretation available for this meeting. If you are a member of the public who would like easier viewing options for the ALS interpreter on your screen, please email us at redistricting@michigan.gov, and we will provide you with additional viewing options. Similarly, members of the public who would like to access translation services during the webinar can email us at redistricting@michigan.gov for details on how to access language translation services available for this meeting. Translation services are available in both Spanish and Arabic. Please email us and we will provide you with a unique link and call-in information to access those services. This meeting is being recorded and will be available at redistrictingmichigan.org for viewing at a later date. It is also being transcribed, and those transcriptions will be made available and posted on redistrictingmichigan.org along with written public comment submissions. Members of the media who may have questions before, during, or after the meeting should direct those questions to Tracy Wimmer, Media Relations Director at the Department of State. Members of the media should already have her contact information. Now, for the purpose of the public watching and for public record, I will turn to the Department of State to take note of the commissioners present.
Good morning. I will do a brief roll call. This is Sally Marsh at the Department of State. So Anthony Eade.
Present.
Dustin Witches.
Present.
Rhonda Lang.
Present.
All members of the advisory committee are present.
Wonderful. Thank you everyone for being here this morning. It's definitely been a long week and I hope we can get the work on our agenda done today. And thank you to the Michigan Department of State for setting up this Zoom meeting. We all very much appreciate it. The other day I sent out an agenda. Is there a motion to adopt said agenda?
I have a question.
Yes.
On the agenda, it said, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me because it's an email. reviewing the numbers, right? Is that, I apologize that I don't have it in front of me. Okay,
That's okay.
now I do. Thank you so much. Compile application rankings. What exactly are we doing as far as that goes, so I know?
Oh, I believe the plan we laid out last meeting was to combine the numbers that the three of us made to then generate a list of the top applicants.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood what we were doing on that particular one. So
Does
I
that,
move to proceed.
okay, is there a second?
Yes. I
Okay,
second.
the agenda is then adopted. Are there any public comments today?
No, there are not.
Wonderful. I'd also like to actually, now that I'm looking at this, I'd like to motion to add adoption of the minutes that were sent out to the agenda. Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Or raise
Aye.
your hand. Wonderful. Okay, so we were sent out meeting minutes from our last from our last advisory committee meeting. Are there any comments on those meeting minutes? Okay, I will say under adjournment, it says there being no further business, Chairman Lett called for a motion to adjourn. I think that's just a typo. Instead of Chair Lett, I think it just should be myself. But besides that, I have no other comments. With that said, is there a motion to adopt these minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Dustin. Is there a second?
Second.
Wonderful. Okay, the meeting minutes are approved. Moving on to our next course of business, we will compile our application rankings for our applicants. Do y'all want to email these to me? Go ahead, Rhonda.
I'm not going to be able to email them to you because I don't have the scanner in front of me, but I need to fully disclose on this. I did do the ranking system. However, I don't feel that the ranking system worked well for me because I had already reviewed them. So I understand that the whole purpose of this was to go over everybody's applications as if we had not seen them before and rank them. With me having already read them, there were some that I've, as I'm reading through them again, there are some that I already know that were better, in my opinion. So I think the ranking system didn't quite work for me. So I was going to make a suggestion that maybe I still did rank mine, but I don't know how truly, I'm not saying biased, but as far as I had already read them. So I'm not saying that I was biased in my ranking, but because I had already read all of the resumes beforehand, before we came up with this ranking system, I'm wondering if it affected my numbers, just in full disclosure. So I was going to recommend maybe we still just go off your guys' rankings and maybe take turns rotating our top picks, because I still do have top picks on mine. But rotate it so that way we don't show bias, like you said, with each other, where our opinions go for each other. I just wanted full disclosure on that I did have a hard time doing the ranking because I had read all of them prior to. If you were good with that. Yeah.
I'm fine to proceed any way that we decide to proceed. I think the rankings make it a little bit more organized. So, I mean, we could go either way here. Do you think that the rankings you came up with, would you say they are indicative of how you feel about each candidate?
Well, what I would say is my initial rankings, I've gone through the resumes probably 4 or 5 times now. The initial day we came up with the ranking, I went through and did my rankings. I went through them again, which changed, because sometimes when you look at things a second, third time. And I also went through them again yesterday to prepare for today, just to make sure, and they changed a little bit again. So is my ranking sheet accurate, in my opinion, to my true feelings? No, just because I reviewed and re-reviewed resumes. I did, however, write down names of people after reviewing them again that I felt would be good candidates for the interview process and why I felt they would be good. So that's why I thought maybe if we took turns rotating it, each one of us present, say, our top pick, we discuss them, we vote on them, the next person to do their top pick. We could kind of keep it rolling that way, if you both would agree to that.
Yeah, I'm cool with proceeding like that. What do you think, Dustin?
That's fine with me.
Okay. Rhonda, why don't you start us off then?
Okay. And I have one more quick question before we get started. Are we going to have a cutoff point when we reach a certain percentage? Obviously, time allotted, there's 40 of them. Are we going to go through all 40, or are we just looking for a top percentage of ones to interview? Because obviously we're not going to be interviewing everybody that sent a resume. If we are looking at a cutoff point, I would like to recommend 20% of the resumes, which would be 8. And then that still leaves it open for our main commission meeting. If they want to add somebody, they can still add somebody without it being overwhelming.
That makes, I like that idea.
Yes, I
That would
had
work.
gone through and came up with a list of 10 preferred candidates. So I'm okay with 8.
I'm gonna run to my car real quick. I had to leave work relatively quick yesterday and grab my folder. My aunt passed away in Europe yesterday, so I will be right back.
Can you speak up so the interpreter can hear you?
Oh, me? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna run and grab my folder from my car real fast. I left work in a real big hurry. So give me 1 second.
Okay, so while we wait for Dustin to return, just pull up my applications.
Okay.
Wonderful. So yeah, let's start, and then we can take turns on who we want to talk about.
Do you want me to start?
Take us away.
Okay. My first applicant that I would recommend for interview is Susan Courtwright Smith. I'll give you a moment to find her.
I had her in my top two.
I believe the reason we should consider her, she has a very good resume. She has experience. She does not have any government office affiliation. She has some glowing letters of recommendation. Her supplemental questions were great. And she does have, like I said, extensive executive director experience.
Miss Hammersmith, I believe it's Susan Hammersmith. She was also in that list of top 8 that I came up with. And so it's good that all 3 of us are in agreement about that. I agree. She does have a great resume and has been an executive director before, and has also had many other similar roles. I also noted her education. She had both a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, and other graduate education studies as well. One thing, a little, not really a critique, but I appreciated the people who specifically put in their cover letter or personal statement why they wanted this job in particular, and I didn't see that in this one, but I still agree with this recommendation.
Actually, she did send one.
No, I know she sent one.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying the contents of it.
Oh, I apologize.
Okay, wonderful. So that's one that we can recommend. Dustin, you want to do the next one?
I have a quick question.
Yeah, give me one.
Okay, are we voting that? Do we have to vote then on which ones? Or are we just in agreement since she was on all of our list?
Well, I think we're in agreement now. After we talk about everybody, we can kind of finalize who we're going to recommend.
Okay.
I am Dustin, are you ready, or should I go next?
I'm pulling up again, different computer. I'm pulling up all the resumes here to look at with my notes that I had. So give me 1 second. I know the name. I'm just trying to figure out who and my reasoning for why. But it was Vicky DeVold. I liked her GPA, her education background.
I apologize, Dustin. I didn't hear the name.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Vicky DeVold or DeVald. Can you hear me? Hold on, I have a bunch of pop-ups coming up everywhere for Adobe. But the things that stuck out to me were education, financial management background. Those were the 2 biggest things, and they also did not have very much like governmental background. So one of the reasons why they stuck out to me.
So I had this individual relatively high on my list, but not to the level of one of my top choices. She is qualified. However, in my opinion, I think some of our other candidates are even more qualified, having more experience directly being executive directors or in similar positions.
I'm having a little bit of trouble pulling her up at the moment. However, I do remember from our initial meeting that I did have her on my list. So I would be open to considering her. I'm just having a little issue opening her resume again at the moment.
Her cover letter also stood out to me quite a bit as well.
I did have her ranked too, fairly high on mine when I did my initial ranking. And she wasn't one that I had excluded when I went through again. So as I said, I would be open to considering her.
Okay. Wonderful. I'll go next. So I had, let's see, I had 4 candidates who I scored higher than everyone else. And the first of that was Janet Phillips. Hope I'm saying her name correctly. If not, I apologize. But I mean, I just think I was pretty blown away by pretty much everything in this resume. Where are my notes here? Not only, so she has an amazing resume. She's been an executive director before. She also was a, sorry, technical difficulties. She also took a lot of time in her questionnaire questions and really went in detail about what she specifically thought she could bring to the table in this position. And yeah, I think she'd be a great fit.
Okay, I also had her on my list. She was actually my number 2. So I would agree with you there. She definitely has an abundance of experience. The only thing that I found, she doesn't have like a lot of governmental experience, but that's not a bad thing. So I would agree with you that she would be a good candidate for interview.
She was my number 1 pick, Anthony.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm glad we're in agreement on most of these so far. So it's a good sign. Rhonda, who do you got next?
Okay. My number 3 pick would have been Amna Seibold. Now I know there may be, because she did, in her resume, it shows that she did serve as a mayor for 2 terms. However, I did look it up and she was unaffiliated. So I think that's a good thing when looking at that. She has been directors of different departments, so she does have the experience as far as being in a director role. I liked her cover letter. You know, she explains her years of experience, and she stresses that she has been a nonpartisan leader, in that she has appointed from all, you know, independent, Republican, Democrat. And I think, you know, we discussed last time, that's really something we need to watch too, is our public perception when we do the hiring, because we're going to be under a microscope. With that being said, she's got over 40 years of experience with different areas, both financial, like I said, director experience. So I think that she would be a good choice for interview.
Yes, Amna was also in that top 4 for me who got that perfect score. I noted her resume, very detailed, lots of former experience that can help us. She was a former nonpartisan mayor, and I don't believe that government work necessarily precludes someone from having this position. I think it could just as easily help. I also noted her education. She got a master's degree from U of M, so that's a good sign for me. And yeah, I definitely think we should bring her in for an interview.
Was in my top 4. So yeah, I stood out. I also think that, you know, mayor of a small town may be good, and then nonpartisan is also not a bad thing to think about. So that would be some experience for sure.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, Dustin, who do you got next?
I have a tie between 2. Brandon Bryce and James Lancaster. And hold on, I'm trying to pull them up again real fast. Sorry, technical difficulties. He was chief legal counsel for voters, not politicians. That's something that stood out to me, because it sounds like he is definitely able to put citizens first over politicians in my mind. Legal background is also not necessarily a bad thing to have. More the merrier. Who we can go for questions would be fantastic in my opinion. He also had some experience. Hold on, let me scroll back up. I'm probably gonna mute myself again here. And experience managing staff was between 5 and 9 years. I think that would qualify him in my opinion. Did you have anyone have a chance to look at him by any chance?
I did, and this is one that we discussed at the last meeting, and I just don't feel with him having, I understand the voters, not politicians, but I feel like he was too involved in the process that got us to where we are today. And if we truly want to stay independent without influence, I think it would be in our best interest to look outside. Not that having an attorney that wrote the language wouldn't be great, but I just think for public opinion, for public view, and for us as a commission, maybe we should not consider somebody that was involved so much with the initial proposal.
Wouldn't just writing the language for the actual constitutional amendment, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, he just wrote and wanted to make sure that we are picking people in a fair manner and drawing districts in a fair manner, and what's the word I'm looking for? Basic, not necessarily ignoring, but not having the current legislature do it. I mean, if he wrote the language for it, he's clearly an advocate for this whole process the way that it is now. That's just my opinion on it. But you do raise a very good point. So
I completely understand your opinion. And, I keep thinking about public perception. How are we going to do this with the most transparency? Everything we do is open. And I just can't help but wonder if he was hired and retained and worked in a lawyer position for the process that got us to where we are today. Yes, but he did work for them. So if we're staying truly independent, should we try and do it as us independent citizens? They got us to where we needed to be today, but now isn't it upon us to take us to where we need to go?
yep,
I guess that's what I'm saying.
it's a very, very, very good point. So yes.
Anthony.
So very good discussion we're having here. And I think both of you bring up, very valid points. I had James Lancaster in that top 4 who got my top scores, just based on his credentials. So I would recommend that we bring him in for an interview at least, and kind of see what the rest of the commission thinks about, any potential conflicts of interest that may occur, like you're talking about, Rhonda. I definitely think that is a point we should consider, but I still think based on his credentials that I would like to interview him and see how he does when we get to that phase. Some things I noted on his application were that he's went to a top law school, was a former city council member and a mayor pro temp. Because he wrote the language on Voters Not Politics, he is familiar with it. Now that, like you said, that might be a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know yet. I'd love to ask him that question and see what he says. I also have here that he actually might be better suited. He might possibly be better suited for the general counsel position that we currently have up as well. But either way, I think that an interview should be warranted. Are there any more comments on him? Okay. Let's see. I believe, Dustin, didn't you say you had a second person as well? We can't hear you.
How about now? Better? It's like, yeah, we'll just come back to me. I don't want to steal anyone else's thunder.
I'm okay with you going to your second one, Dustin, because I initially had him down too. So if you want to proceed.
I did as well.
way off. Let's see here. Hold on. I'm pulling it back up. Uh, top schools for education. I think he went to Howard and Rutgers, if I remember right, what I have written down. Um, and I'm trying to do this from some kind of memory here as well. Broad range of leadership in a whole bunch of different fields. I was Boy Scouts, wrestling, just a whole bunch of different leadership positions stood out to me. And I feel that his cover letter was extremely well written.
Yes, I agree. I had Brandon Bryce in my top 8 as well. I noted pretty much the same things that you noted. I also noted that this one in particular, it just seemed more personable. Like this person might be a little somehow easier to work with. Now that's hard to say without meeting him first, but I definitely would love to meet him.
I got that same read on his resume. I don't know what it was, but it just, he seems like he would be very personable, like you said, and easy to talk to. Just based off from his resume, I don't know why I would think the same thing, but I did get that same read.
When I was reading it, I felt like he was like in the room talking to me while I was reading it. So, yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, Rhonda, who do you have next?
I'm going to let you go next, Anthony, if you don't mind.
I do not mind. So we've gone over 3 of the people that I gave perfect scores to. I'll go with the 4th. I had Cheryl Mitchell as quite high. She has had a lot of government work. Now, like we said earlier, that could be good or bad. But I think she has the credentials to warrant an interview. She had great academic credentials. She had a doctorate degree in business administration, and she's done this type of work before. I also thought her cover letter / personal statement was very well written. It had why she wanted this job and not some other job. And I can tell she took the time for her questionnaire to really think about the questions and have sufficient answers to those questions.
Yeah, I would agree. She was in my top excuse me, she was in my top 10 as well. And even though here's my take on the government positions. If you have worked in a city center, for example, like a mayor or a city planner or city manager, so on and so forth, in my mind, those individuals, they really have never had any kind of responsibility in regards to redistricting as well, but they have a lot of experience in managing at that point. So that's, if someone said, I was a state legislature or so on and so forth, or then, that's red flags, but mayor of a small town or Cheryl Mitchell here, Dr. Cheryl Mitchell, she, in my opinion, her leadership skills that she would have attained while working in some sort of government fashion would not necessarily be a bad thing. So same with Amna as well, for the same reasons, was why I would have scored her so high, and then Dr. Cheryl Mitchell as well.
I initially had her, when I first did your scoring system, I did have her as one of my top 4, so I would not object at all to including her in the interviews.
Okay, cool. Moving on.
Okay, if I'm next, here's where mine get kind of all over the place as I went through and redid. One, when I was reviewing yesterday, that I initially, she initially got a fairly good score for me, but not as high as others. But when I went back and reread hers yesterday, I thought she might make a good candidate, is Rochelle Collins. She has worked as a director. She does have some experience. If you look on her resume, she worked for the Office of the Mayor as the Director of Government Relations. So as far as going out into the public and interacting with the public, I think that might be a good quality and experience to have. She's been an executive project manager. And yeah, there is something else on here. I apologize. I have to look.
Okay, take your time.
In her cover letter, she talks about how she's had more than 25 years of experience in government relations, organizational management, and human resources, etc. So I do think that that could be helpful in our situation. She's familiar with the Open Meetings Act. I like that she says, you know, that she's got the ability to listen, learn, develop, you know. I don't know. I just think that she would be a good one to interview. I'm sorry, I'm kind of blanking out here, but I did move her a little higher up yesterday.
So I originally had Miss Collins pretty high on my applications, but as I started to read some of the other ones and go through it and really put in the time to try to find you know, the most qualified person, I kind of moved her down a little bit. That's not to say I don't think she'd make a good candidate. She is kind of like in the middle of my rankings here. But yeah, she'd be in the middle of mine.
That's kind of where she was on mine. Not anywhere near the lowest, but she was up there fairly high. And like I said, I don't know what it was. I was reviewing all of them again yesterday and she stuck out a little more. So I put her on my list. But I'm open to your guys' suggestions too. We've reviewed 7 of them so far. So obviously we can't vote on every single person. So your opinions, whatever you feel, I'm good with.
This is where I say I don't remember looking at this resume. I must have skipped over it. Because it doesn't even ring a remote bell. So give me a few minutes and I'll take a look at it real quick and see something.
Okay. While Dustin's doing that, I also had I had Andrew Klein pretty far up my list. He was after pretty much after the people we've already talked about. Um, he had a very good resume. We also talked about him at the last meeting, and the issue that we brought up was that he has been away from Michigan for quite some time. But I think this might be a good chance to maybe get a talented person back over here in our state. But yeah, he had a great resume. But he's been in Maryland for the past number of years. But it looks like he's done a very good job in Maryland, serving in roles that will give him a lot of experience to sit in a role like this one.
I guess my question, because I do remember talking about Andrew as well last meeting, my question with him is, would he be willing to relocate is the question.
That would be my question also. And would he be willing to relocate just for a year?
Right.
I mean, I'm not ruling him out. If you guys agree that you would like to interview him and that could be asked in the interview process, I'm fine with that. We did talk about him and he did have, good experience and everything. I think all of our main concern was the fact that he was in another state, and with things being so up in the air right now with the COVID and what have you, we may not be doing Zoom come January. So I guess that would be something, in order to make a good informed decision, that we would need to know is, does he plan on relocating here, or is he trying to do it from Maryland? Because as we've seen, things can change at the drop of a dime. So I think that's kind of why we were leaning towards somebody that was in state.
Going back to Rochelle Collins, I would not rule her out as a potential interviewee. I like her resume and cover letter as well. So, especially with working in nonprofit, and grant writing is also a pretty decent thing to have. So, I like it.
Okay, so just kind of to talk about where we're at right now before moving to the next candidate, based on the discussion that we've talked about, I have 6 people that we've all pretty much agreed we should definitely interview. That's Janet Phillips, Amna Shebold, Brandon Bryce, Cheryl Mitchell, Suanne, or is it Suanne or Susan Hammersmith, and James Lancaster. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then kind of in the next, I don't want to say like tier of people, but the people there was a little bit of disagreement on. We have Vicky Duvold, Andrew Klein, and Rachel Collins. So I think we said 8 originally, and now we have 6, and then the maybes for the 3 that I just stated. Does anyone have anybody else that they feel strongly about that we might want to consider for those 2 more interview spots that we have?
I think the ones that we have discussed so far, in my opinion, stood out. They scored the highest out of my list. Because we're doing the point system, they were either 29 or 30. So I am happy with these people to bring forward, in my opinion, as our top suggestions.
There's one more I want to bring up, but I want to bring up her resume real quick because I had her written down. So I kind of want to see review again why I had her written down. Okay, one more that I would like to be considered for interview is Chanel Manis. And I may not be saying her last name correct. She is an attorney, which could prove helpful. She worked as an HR specialist for the city of Detroit. She does have 3 years of experience with the Open Meetings Act. She has experience in developing and executing budgets for businesses and with public reporting, including managing the full life cycle of FOIA request. So Freedom of Information Act, she's familiar with, which will be very useful with our commission. She was one that initially on mine. Oh, where'd she go? She was one initially that was kind of middle of the road for me. And then after reviewing a second time, I thought that she might be a good candidate. She might not have as much experience as some of the other ones. Sometimes experience is a good thing. Sometimes it's not. You get somebody that might not have as much experience. They might not be as set in their ways, I guess. So I don't want to rule out another potential one because she might not have as many years of experience when she's got other qualities that I think would be beneficial to the committee. So that's my opinion on her.
So I originally, on my first review, had this person actually towards the bottom of my list, but then as I did subsequent reviews, she did move up each time, which I think is notable. I think you kind of said the same thing, Rhonda. And yeah, the only thing that really would concern me here is that she hasn't really had any like directorship experiences. But like you said, it could be a good or a bad thing.
I think with her HR experience, you know, being an HR specialist and an attorney, a public relations assistant, I think there's other little things that might make up for it. Like I said, I would hate to rule anybody out because they may not have as much experience if I see things that might benefit the commission. And I just think with her resume, I keep going back to the lawyer thing, you know, just like we said with the other gentleman being a lawyer and writing language, that may be beneficial for us too, even as an executive director. But as I said, I'll take your guys' opinions also and whatever we as a team decide.
Well, it is definitely a team effort here. Is there anyone else that anyone felt particularly strong about? I have, let me pull them up real quick. There was one candidate who stuck out to me, but I also think there might be some conflicts of interest. So it wasn't quite as high on my list as some of the others we've talked about, but he was still quite high within the top 8. It's Daniel Charon. And looking at his resume, he's a very well qualified person. Like Mr. Lancaster, there's a possibility he might be better suited for the general counsel job. But as far as his experience goes, he has a ton of experience. He was a communications director for the city of Detroit, and a independent relations strategist for a rather large company when I looked it up. The conflict might come in is that he was a federal lobbyist, from what it seems like, and that may or may not, cause some issues. He did disclose in his cover letter that he identifies as a Democrat, which I appreciate the honesty in putting that. But yeah, this is just one that stuck out to me.
I have to say on some of mine, when it came to that, the lobbying, on some of the ones I made decisions on, if I was kind of on the fence on how much is too much government, how much isn't, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I went back to our Constitution that was written regarding the Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. And although there's no, writing in there about who we hire, I kind of looked at it and how it said that nobody on the commission within 6 years could hold public office or be a lobbyer, be associated with lobbying. So what I kind of did, if there was some that I was on the fence on and I wasn't quite sure, I went back to that and I kind of applied those same standards to who I was looking at for the executive director. I mean, is it a prerequisite? No, but that's kind of what I did to help me decide, do I want to move forward with this or not, or how much? Some of them did have local experience, but then I saw some that had a lot of government experience working for a lot of government officials. So I kind of went back on that as how many years has it been? And that kind of helped me get over that hump of, could there be political biases or not? And just throwing that out there, that kind of helped me make some of my decisions when I was on the fence.
Okay, it's definitely a good point. Well, I think, let's see, I just had one more person that I think we might want to talk about, and then I'll be good. And that was Gregory Hicks. His application was rather long. He included some materials we didn't ask for in it, like his abstract, but by reading it, I kind of got to learn more about him and what he does. He has served as an executive director previously for the Detroit Charter Revisions Commission in Detroit. So that definitely stuck out to me. He also served as secretary to the board of the Detroit Police Commission. And he's just had a lot of work like that. If you want to pull up his resume, he also has a PhD. He's very well educated, and also 2 master's degrees actually. So that stuck out to me as well. But yeah, this is the last guy on my list that kind of stood out.
There's one thing that also stands out too. He was the political director for the Michigan Democratic Party. So But that has been a while ago. But again, I'm trying to get it, not saying that anybody would be, but trying to look at it in terms of what's going to appear to be the least biased, or what is going to be the least biased, most impartial. I don't know. When I initially went through all of his, on your grading scale, I'm sorry, your number scale, I had him kind of middle of the road. There were some that were lower, but I had a lot more people that were higher, just based on different criteria and looking at things like that. So I would be on the fence with him. It's not one I personally would recommend, but again, this is a team effort, so.
I'm on the same page as you, Rhonda.
Yes, and Rhonda, I do appreciate how often you're bringing up the point that this is an independent commission and we have to act independently as citizens, and part of that is looking out for any different interests that may or may not be there. Okay, so those are all the candidates I have to talk about. If no one else has any others they would like to highlight, then, like I said earlier, we have the 6 that we are in agreements with, and then we have 2 more spots, and out of those 2 spots, we kind of have 4 candidates that we've talked about. So if we can narrow those 4 extra ones down to 2 to make our recommendation, that's what we got to do. So out of those 4, we have Vicky Duvold, Andrew Klein, Rachel Collins, and Chanel Manis. Does anyone feel strongly about either of those 4? We need 2 of them.
When we were going through initially, I thought we were all pretty much in agreement on Vicky DeVold. When we first started, she was the second one that was brought up. I thought we were already in agreement on her, that all 3 of us said she would be good. Am I mistaken? Because I have her written down as number 2.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
That's
I had
what
her
we're
written
going
down.
You know what? You're correct. I just put her in the wrong column. Okay, so that gives us 7.
Anthony, I am still on the fence about Mr. Lancaster. I'm going to be honest. Like I said, I will go with what the group decides, but I am still on the fence with him because of that. And I'm sorry, but I don't know. Call it my gut. So if you both decide, like I said, I will be fine, but I just want it to be known that I am on the fence about that because of the participation in the movement.
Yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying, but that, like I said earlier, that's something I'd really like to ask him, and I think the commission can ask him, and I think you can ask him when he comes in, and I think we should really grill him on it actually, and really try to get ask tough questions and hopefully see if we get good responses on if there's going to be a conflict there. But I do really want to at least meet him and give him an interview, just because of I think his credentials are one of the best that we have here. What do you think, Dustin?
Same. I mean, he's a great candidate for interviewing, in my opinion, and we'll just have to, or someone, since I've really never interviewed people before, come up with some tough questions to see if that gut feeling would be there after we have a chance to speak with him as a whole, with all of us.
We're just recommending to the commission, right? So we can discuss in our committee meeting following this, we can discuss our concerns with them. We're not making the final decision, correct? We're all on agreement? Okay, then
Yep, that is what we're
absolutely. Okay. Then I say move forward with them.
okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, and we all have our notes here too on these candidates that we're going to bring forward to the commission, the rest of the commission too. And I'm sure, they might have a couple of people they want to talk about that maybe we didn't. But like you said, we're making, the recommendation to, streamline the process and make it a little easier because we did have, 43 complete applicants, which is, quite a bit.
And did he have any I didn't bring it. I don't have him up in front of me real quick. So I have one more question on him. Does he have any executive director experience, or is all of his experience as an attorney? I'm trying to find his resume again, just so I can look one last time.
He didn't have any executive director experience, but he was a city council member for the city of DeWitt. And it looks like he served from 1992 to 2004, and then from 2016 to 2015. And it looks like in that gap, he was the mayor pro tem of the city. And he also served on the planning commission for that city during that time as well. So no executive director experience, but I would say definitely, civil engagement experience. I definitely think that's something, that should be noted compared to some of the other applicants.
Okay, so how do you recommend that we proceed with the final three that we're kind of a maybe on? What do you recommend that we do as far as deciding which one should move forward? Are we going by total points or?
Well, I'm glad that, the points brought us here and helped us narrow it down to these people. That was kind of, the whole point of it, to try to do it in an objective and unbiased fashion. And I think it's achieved that goal. I think we have a pretty, diverse list right here, which definitely is a good sign. I would ask, out of those three, do any of you feel strongly out of any of them?
I think they all have some sort of potential. I also believe our highest picks based on experience and what we have a gut feeling about are already on our list. So we could move to leave the 8th spot open. And if our full committee would like to add somebody, then we're still not overwhelming it, if it's okay with you. I just don't know how we would decide between the last three unless we did by the numbers, because what would determine? If nobody feels super strongly about any of the last three, then I guess I would move to leave that 8th position open in case of the full committee has somebody that they feel very strongly about.
I was actually, right before you said that, I was thinking the exact same thing. If we all feel pretty strongly about these 7 that we have, and if we think these 7 are the most qualified, then that's who we think's the most qualified, which is what our job is to come up with. So I'm totally okay with leaving it at 7, and that way, like you said, it leaves up some room if the rest of the commission wants to consider anyone else.
Yeah, and remember also, like the first 4, we all were in complete agreement with already. So, I am quite happy with this list, leaving one open to say, hey, if you have anyone that you'd like to discuss, you can. But keep in mind, they have a chance to review all 40 applications as well. So,
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay, so I'm just going to make a motion real quick to recommend the following applicants to move on to the interview process. It's not a definite you're moving forward, because we have to speak to the rest of the commission, but it is this advisory committee's recommendation. And that's Janet Phillips, Amna Shebold, James Lancaster, Brandon Bryce, Cheryl Mitchell, Suan Courtwright Hammersmith, and Vicky Duvald. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Wonderful. Okay, well, that is the recommendation we will bring to the commission. And I think that completes our agenda. Let me pull it up to make sure.
Sally, I see your hand.
Hi, everyone. Just wanted to jump in and say, you know, with the remaining time you have left, you're scheduled until 11. You might consider discussing how you want to present your recommendations to the commission. You have time at the full commission meeting. So if there's sort of an order or an explanation, or, you know, how you want to present the recommendation of the group, that might be something to discuss before you end today.
Yes, we probably should discuss that. I also think something we might want to discuss, since we have some extra time, is if we want to send out any rejection letters, or letters that say, you're not going to be considered to go on further once we talk to the whole commission. But are there any comments on how we want to present this to the rest of the commission?
I say we recommend, or I recommend that we do it based on which ones did all of us agree on the top? Who was our top? Kind of rank them from top down as far as how we had them on here. So this might be where your numbers could come into effect too. Based on your total numbers that you gave, which nobody got a perfect score on mine, just so you guys know. But that might be one way to rank them. We could add together all of ours, and then as we present them, be like, this is our top pick, here's why, here's our next top pick, here's why, and rate them like that. Just a suggestion.
I was going to say, why not just explain what we did individually and how we came up with our ranking system on the cover letter, the question, and the resume. We'd score 1 through 10 for a composite score between 0 and 30. And then we went over that list today with all of us, and these first 4 people, they were all on our list pretty high, and then just explain it the way that, how Anthony, how you came up with the whole process for picking these people to potentially move forward, and the applicants to move forward. It would be beneficial, in my opinion.
I get you there, Dustin. The only issue is the ranking system didn't work so well for me, as I first said.
Right.
So, to say it was based solely on that ranking system, I kind of did it how I've done interviews before, because I've interviewed, hired, fired before. So a lot of that came from that. So my ranking system, I did it based off from my first view, I guess. And like I said, when I started going through the second time, did people get less of a rank for me because I had already knew that there were more qualified? Yes, honestly, they did. And so, but I get what you're saying. We can do it that way. I mean, I guess we don't have to present any of the ones that we've chosen in any particular order to say top, bottom, or what, because it's going to be the commission's as a whole, their final decision. I mean, they may not want some of these people anyways. They may have some that they say, well, we think this is better qualified person and let's vote on it. So I say we just give them the list. We can tell them how we came up with it, like you said. But I guess we don't rank them. I'll withdraw that idea of not ranking them based off from their scores.
That makes sense. I mean, we can just say we did that as a stepping stone to get started. But I mean, halfway through, I was just reading them and basically saying, this one's good, this one's good, this one's good, this one's good, this one's not so good, so on and so forth. And I was doing my own kind of thing. But stepping stone is a good way to put it. Something and basically to say, this is what you need to hone in on. And then eventually you get in your own groove. So.
Agreed.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with what you two are saying. The whole point of the ranking system was just to narrow it down to, who we thought were the most qualified because we had such a large amount of applicants. And, I think it served that purpose for sure. And I think that's evident by the fact that, most of the people that all three of us came up with were the same people. So I think we can just give them, this list of names. We can briefly go over how we came up with the list. And I think what's most important is, we tell them why we chose these people and that, we feel strongly, if there's any that we feel out of this list of 7 that we feel strongly about. So I'd be okay with, kind of going over it one by one and kind of taking turns like how we just did. Hopefully maybe a little faster since there'll be less deliberation, and letting them know why we chose these people, and then letting the commission take it from there.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Do you guys mind if I lead that discussion, and I will be sure to give both of you the time that you need to discuss your opinion as well?
Take it away, champ, all you.
You are the chair, so it would make sense that you would lead the discussion and then we can put in our objections or fors and why throughout the discussion. But I do think with you being the chair that obviously you should present each person and then we'll just open it up for discussion.
Wonderful. I'm glad we are all in agreements. And, I think all things considered, this has been pretty smooth. So I'm quite happy about that. Okay.
Definitely better than our last one.
Time does help. Does anyone have anything else to say or any other comments to make? How about our friends at the Department of State?
All good.
Okay, with that said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I have a quick question for Sally. Sorry. And we're being recorded, but for our next commission meeting, do we use that other link that we were emailed or do we stay logged into this one?
Yes, it's a separate meeting, so it's a separate login.
Okay.
And for the members of the public who are watching, all of that information on how you can view has already been posted on social media and will be posted again. So the next meeting, the full commission meeting, starts at 11:30 a.m. So look to our social media, Redistricting MI, and then again you can see that later again today at 11:30. We'll post again.
Thank you, Sally.
Great. Any other questions, comments from anybody? Announcements?
I'll second your motion.
Did we have a motion yet?
I think so. Oh, wait, no. So I was supposed to say so moved, right? Yeah, there we go.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor to adjourn this meeting at 10:23 a.m., say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty. All right. Well, we'll be seeing you guys in a little bit. Thanks for coming, everybody.